now we will move on to the second line. The first line was, grant your blessings that my mind may follow the Dharma. And the second line is, grant your blessings that my Dharma practice may become the path. Or it says here that the Dharma may go on the path, may follow the path. So this mostly is to deal with again the point that it's very easy to do a lot of various practices and go to a lot of Dharma retreats or read all the right books and get all the right kind of empowerments. But our practice is not really going towards the Dharma. In other words, people do all these external practices, but nothing inside really changes. You know, that they say, but you know, I've gone to so many retreats and I've done so many prostrations and I've done all the things I'm meant to be doing and how many billions of mantras, but inwardly nothing really has changed. And this is because the Dharma practice is not, it's not going on the path. It stays superficial. You know, it's like outward. I mean, we think we're doing everything right, but it's not getting to the heart of the matter. It's all up in the head. So intellectually, we can understand. And intellectually, we can do all our practices. But it's not coming into our it's not moving down into the heart level. And so therefore nothing really is changing. We're just getting more sophisticated in our intellectual understanding. And you know, somebody says something and we get just as upset or as angry, we're just as attached, we're just as, you know, vulnerable as if we'd never heard a word of the Dharma. Nothing inside has really changed. And so this is a problem. I mean, it's something which, you know, many people face insofar as, you know, with all sincerity, we're all doing everything that it says. You know, we're following all the steps, but still, inwardly, nothing really is shifting. So this is why he's asking for the blessings, that, you know, that the Dharma itself, our Dharma practices may actually progress along the path, you know, and not just be, you know, an outer manifestation, but may really and truly take us somewhere. The Dharma is supposed to be like a vehicle, you know, that, you know, the yanas they're like a carriage, you know, and they're supposed to be carrying us somewhere. So we should have a sense really of traveling, you know, that we are moving. And so this is a very important point. Nobody can move another. And as I say, it's very easy to get into, you know, just an outer manifestation. It all looks very, very sincere, and it is sincere. But because it's not hitting the vital point, nothing substantially is transforming. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if you know what I'm saying. But outwardly it looks very good, but inwardly only we can know that inherently nothing really is shifting. Which is, again, why it's useful sometimes when things go wrong, because then when everything is smooth, then anyway we can think we're lovely people really. But when things go wrong, then we can watch how we are responding. And then we begin to understand, has the Dharma really taken hold of our life or not? Are we still responding, reacting in a very worldly way? In a Tibetan, there's the word chirpa, which means a person practicing Dharma, and a jikpenpa, meaning a worldly person. And so, for example, when we lose somebody dies, or when we, some really untoward problems arrive in our life, or, all the problems which we have, especially ones which we're not expecting, how do we spontaneously respond? As a worldly person, with our attachments and our angers and our, clinging mind, or with a kind of certain understanding and detachment and compassion and so forth. I mean, this is very good for us sometimes when things get rough, because that helps us to see whether or not we really are changing. Anyway, so it's a very important point, whether the Dharma is really working or not. And because, as I say, we can get very sophisticated in our intellectual understanding, and also all the lamas we've met, and all the retreats we've done, and all the empowerments we've taken, and all the special people we've met, and blah, 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 blah. And inwardly, nothing much has really changed. It's not that it has to change overnight. It's not that we are all going to become 8-level bodhisattvas. I mean, the texts always make it out like we're, just on the tip of Buddhahood. I mean, we're not 8-level bodhisattvas, so we shouldn't judge ourselves according to the way the texts always tell us we have to respond. That's not fair, right? But nonetheless, there should be some indication that our normal self-grasping attitude is shifting, and that we're able to see things from a broader perspective, a more wise and compassionate understanding. Even if it's still a struggle, there should still be some indication inside that we see the way ahead in a different way to how we would have before. That slowly, something is shifting inside us. So, therefore, traditionally, the ways which they are teaching for this is, first of all, to really take refuge from the heart. In Buddhism, as most of you know, the entry onto the path is the 3 refuges. It's refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. That's rather as in Christianity you get baptized. So in Buddhism you take refuge. And it's like it opens the door into the palace of all the Dhamma teachings. The Buddha is not just Shakyamuni Buddha, the historical Buddha, but it also means all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the universe. In Mahayana Buddhism, it's considered that all of the universe, I mean vast galaxies, are filled with an intelligence. It's an intelligent network. It's not something which is just materialistic and automatically. I mean, every cell of our being is intelligent. And the fact that the whole universe just completely, is interdependently manifesting continually is because of an intelligence. And that intelligence is not just outer intelligence, but is our own Buddha nature, meaning our own innate intelligence, which is the fundamental of our being. We know. The fundamental nature of our being is this quality of, it's called empty, not in the sense that it's nothing, but in the sense that it's not graspable, and it's all-pervading, spacious. So therefore the nature of the mind is compared to space because you can't see it, you can't grasp it, you can't taste it, touch it. But everything is space. Where is space not? I mean, even, this is space, I'm space, you're space, everything is space. Fundamentally, ultimately. If there was no space, there would be no manifestation of things. Things can manifest from that space. Just as in the sky, we have clouds coming and going back into the sky. They are from the sky, they go out, and then they come back in again. They could not do that if there was no sky. We cannot even imagine in the world if there was no space. And so therefore the nature of our mind, our essential mind, is compared to space because, again, it is ungraspable, unseeable, but everything manifests from it and goes back into it again. And so it's not just empty like space, but it also has this clear, luminous knowing quality. We know. You hear, you see, you think. Because we can know. We have that inherent intelligence always there as our fundamental nature. And this is called our Buddha nature. It doesn't mean that each one of us has a little Buddha sitting inside. It's not that. It's this open, spacious intelligence which all of us share. All beings share, not just human beings. So that we go for refuge, ultimately, to our own inherent wisdom, compassion mind. And then from that we go for refuge to the Dharma, meaning, first of all, the teachings of the Buddha, without which we wouldn't have a path. But also the Dharma in the sense of ultimate reality, how things really are, if only we could see with our wisdom mind, not at all the way we normally see it through our little ego-centric, conceptual thinking mind. And the Sangha means, traditionally in Buddhist countries nowadays, Sangha just usually means the monks. But in fact, it also means the Maha Sangha, the great Sangha, meaning monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen. Everybody who is followers of the Buddha are Sangha. Sangha means community, of course. But when we go for refuge, especially we are going for refuge to the Arya Sangha, which means all those, monastics or lay, male or female, makes no difference. Anyone who has had a glimpse of the realization of true reality, all those become Aryas. So we go for refuge to those two. So the refuge is like, like the Buddha said, we are all sick. We are sick with the 5 poisons. And so he is the supreme physician, so you go to the doctor gives his prescription, his remedy, and says, don't worry too much, you are inherently healthy. You're just a little bit sick at the moment, but here's the medicine. And then the Sangha are like the nurses who help us to take the remedy properly. So these are the refuges. And then on top of that comes what is called bodhicitta. In other words, why are we bothering to follow a path? Now there are basically 3 reasons why people get into following a spiritual path. Firstly, because we are hoping that it's going to make us feel better. And that if we do meditation, that will make us feel nice and calm and peaceful, and this is usually decided by people who never meditated, because once they do, they realize they're in for trouble, but they don't know that yet, so they think that if they meditate, it will make them feel better. So people follow, ethics. Of course, Dharma practice is not just meditation by any means. It is ethics and cultivating loving kindness, compassion, patience, generosity, and so forth. Many of the qualities of the heart. I mean, it's not just meditation by any means. But then why do people do that? Well, firstly, because, as I say, it makes them, they hope it's going to make them feel better. And also in Buddhist countries, because they are trying to get what is called punya, or merit. In other words, a kind of accumulation of good karma, so that hopefully this will help in this life, but if not in this life, at least in future lives, that future lives will be better than this one. And of course, as we were discussing the karma, I mean, our condition now is due to whether we made more negative or positive karma in the past, or which of those seeds are coming up right now. So people are trying to cultivate lots of good seeds, so that in the time now or in the future, things will go more smoothly, they'll be happier, they'll be healthy, they'll have wealth, they'll have good relationships, and things will be easier than it's probably been in this lifetime. So a lot of people, also if not that, then that they will get reborn in higher realms. I mean, not just in Buddhism, but in other religions. People try to be good and kind, so next time they can go to heaven. Right? So a lot of people are good and kind, first because they want to be good and kind, but also because they hope they will be rewarded by having a higher rebirth. So that's the first level of why people enter into a spiritual path. It's because they hope it's going to alleviate samsara. That samsara will be a little easier for them next time round. But then the second point is that whether we go up or whether we go down, whether we're in the penthouse or the dungeons, this is still samsara. And we never know where we're going to go, because even if we have been good people in this lifetime, maybe some negative thing will happen and we go down. It's like snakes and ladders. You know, the ladders are quite short, the snakes are endless. So, you know, it's very uncertain. And so, therefore, there comes the aspiration, let's just get out of samsara. And so in the Theravadan countries of Southeast Asia, such as Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma, and so forth, the aspiration is mostly to break the wheel altogether and to transcend samsara and enter nirvana. And this was indeed very much encouraged by the Buddha, who said, you know, samsara is endless, and unless in this lifetime you take hold of the whole situation and do something very radical, no, we're just going to be endlessly circling again and again and again and again and again, better get out. So, good. So then we enter nirvana, which is like to shatter the samsara. Nirvana means recognizing the selflessness, the egolessness of this personality which we cling to so hard and believe is I. When we see through our ego delusion, doesn't mean we don't exist, but we don't exist on the sense of our superficial ego, grasping mind, then automatically the 5 poisons of the mind will cease, because our clinging, grasping, greedy mind and our angry and irritable mind, our pride and our jealousy and so forth, naturally are shattered when our essential ignorance of our true nature is realized, right? I mean, we get angry or we get greedy because we're trying to satisfy ourselves. When that idea of this separate, immutable, solid I at the center of everything, like a spider in its web, when that is seen through totally, then there's nothing to defend. There's no idea of pleasure and pain. The mind is just open and spacious and allows everything without our grasping mind, the ego behind it. So therefore the 5 poisons automatically are neutralized. And that's why in Nirvana there is no greed and anger. I mean, how could it be? It's the open, spacious freedom of the mind. Okay, so that's good. But then, we are all trapped, drowning in this huge swamp of samsara. And then by making lots of effort, we finally get onto dry land, Nirvana. But then, would we turn around and say to our parents, our partners, our children, our friends, who are all drowning, well, so sorry you're all drowning, but I'm free, so you take your example from me and keep struggling, and I'm sure eventually you can get out if you really try hard. So, goodbye. You see, we wouldn't. We would think, now I am on dry land, I have to pull you out. I can't pull you out while I'm in a swamp, because if I try to pull you out, I'm likely to get more swamped. Now I'm on firm land, I can give you a hand. So, grasp and I will pull. And so this idea that the only reason to get on dry land really is to be in a position to help others also get out of the swamp is what is called bodhicitta. So bodhicitta means it's a radical turning of our motivation from thinking only, now I can be free, now I can be liberated, to why do I want to be liberated? Well, because then I effectively have the wisdom and compassion to help others who are similarly entrapped to get out. Why do I want to get out of the prison? In order to show others also how to escape. While I'm trapped in that prison, I can't escape and help others to escape because I'm trapped. But once I've got out, I've got the key and I've opened the door, I can say to everyone else, come out too, look. And so it's really something very fundamental. It's not an intellectual understanding. It's something very fundamental. When we practice, we are taking all beings along with us. Now there are 2 sides to this. First of all, the aspiration to attain enlightenment for the sake of all beings, and at the same time, to use one's practice, even now while we are still in ignorance, to visualize taking all beings with us at the same time on the path. So, for example, when people are doing meditations, then in the Vajrayana, for example, if one is doing prostrations, then a part of the visualization is to visualize all the other beings, like a huge plain, a huge flat land. There's the images of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the Lamas and the Yidams and everybody in front. One is here, prostrating, in front of oneself. People one doesn't like very much, one's enemies. They're in front. Behind us and around us are parents, friends, children, everybody. And then all there, everywhere, we visualize all sentient beings, including animals and insects and everybody's prostrating at the same time. If we are doing this, we are their representative. It's like if you had the United Nations, then you are going to represent India. You can't send the whole of India to the United Nations. You send one delegate, and he represents the whole of India, right? He is your representative. So likewise, when we practice, we are the representative for all sentient beings. All sentient beings, all those beings, especially those beings who don't know how, we are going to represent them. We're going to be their substitute. So in that way, when we practice with all beings. We take all beings along with us, and therefore we have that commitment to practice, because we're not just practicing on behalf of ourselves, we are practicing on behalf of all beings. Other beings don't know how to do this. If I don't do it for them, who's going to do it? So I have to do it without making it heavy. Nonetheless, it gives us a sense of responsibility that we are not just practicing for the sake of our own well-being, but we really, the desire is to take all beings with us, along with us at this time. And all beings means all beings. It doesn't just mean human beings. It certainly doesn't just mean our friends and family. It means all beings, animals, insects, beings that live in the waters, beings that live in the air, under the ground, spirits, beings in the heavenly realms, beings in the hell realms, all beings. All beings need to be liberated, and we take that commitment to try to walk the path in order to be in a position to genuinely be of some benefit. And in the meantime, we don't forget them, but we're all practicing together. So this is, if we can try to do that, without making it too heavy, right? We don't want to get all endlessly burdened with our responsibilities to all beings. But nonetheless, to remember that, we are doing this, not just in order to make ourselves feel better or whatever, but because we have this commitment to attain enlightenment for everyone, that truly brings the Dharma onto the path, right? Because if we really, really practice like that from the heart, something has to change, because it's a very deep commitment. Of course we can't do it right now. And sometimes people get very frightened and say, oh, but I'm so stupid and ignorant and angry and greedy and blah, 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 and how can I take this vow? But it's planting a seed, so that even if in this lifetime we don't do that much to benefit anybody, the seed is there. And in the Tibetan tradition especially, they not only do recite the refuge and the bodhisattva vow every day, but also as often as one hears that some lama is giving a bodhisattva vow, some lama that one values, one goes and takes it. Because it's, as I say, it's pushing seeds into our mind stream, so that next life we come back and quickly meet again with the Mahayana Dharma. And don't waste time. And when we meet with the Mahayana Dharma, we have faith and feel that connection, that we've come home again and we're back on the path. So this is very important. It's like a GPS. What they called? GPS, right? You set your compass, right? I want to get to Delhi. And then, of course, along the way, you know that it's pointing out where you go. But you know, you look at the scenery along the way, and that's where you are. You're not just thinking Delhi, Delhi, Delhi. We're looking at where we are, and we stop off in certain places and have a chai, and so forth. But we know we are on the right path, right? We've set our compass there. And so, however, even if we make little detours because there's an interesting place or a good temple or something on the way, we know, nonetheless, that's where we're directing to. And this is why, before any practice, we take refuge and we take the Bodhisattva vow, right? That sets our GPS. Then we can let that go. But we know we are heading in the right direction. However many lifetimes, we're set. So this is very important, and it really, if we take it seriously and really think of the implications, and read things like, for example, Shantideva's Bodhicharyavatara and other texts of this sort, it really will keep us motivated and give real flavor to our practice, because we will remember why we are practicing, and that it's not just for the sake of temporary benefits, but very much for the sake of not just this lifetime, but all our future lifetimes. So this is one very important way to make sure that the Dharma is really, the path is really following towards the Dharma, that we really are heading in the right direction. So along with that, there are other things which help us in that are things like practicing the four immeasurables, which are Maitri, Metta, or loving kindness, and then Karuna, or compassion, Mudita, or rejoicing in others' happiness, and Upeksha, which is a kind of sense of impartiality and equanimity. These are very important qualities of the heart, which help also to Buddhism is very, as anyone who knows anything about Buddhism knows, it's very hard on our poor old ego. It is full of ego bashing. And sometimes people don't quite understand what that means. And it makes them very harsh towards themselves, very judgmental, and very unloving towards themselves. We must remember that merely saying there is no self or everything is emptiness doesn't solve anything. Because intellectually, to understand what is meant by no self, intellectually, to comprehend the subtleties of emptiness, in themselves will not liberate us, because it is still in the realm of conceptual thinking. We are only liberated by these ideas when we have direct realization. In the meantime, in actual fact, we do not drop or see through the illusion of an ego until the 8th Bodhisattva level. And there are only 10 Bodhisattva levels and you're a Buddha. So I wouldn't worry about it. The Buddha, despite talking about anatman, nonetheless gave most of the teaching is on how to have a healthy, well-balanced self. Right? Who is saying, I want to meditate? The ego. Who is saying, I want to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings? The ego. Of course the ego can't attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, but we have to start somewhere. Right? So, the Buddha's path starts with shamatha meditation. Now, in order to get into genuine shamatha meditation, this calm abiding meditation, all our psychological factors have to be in balance. Otherwise, we are not going to go into any deep states of absorption. So, in other words, we end up with a very healthy, balanced, strong ego. It is not until we get to the second stage of vipassana or insight meditation that we begin to peel off the layers of the ego. We cannot do that until we have a nice, strong, healthy ego to peel the layers from. Do you understand? If we are psychologically unbalanced, then vipassana would be very harmful. If we have a hurting ego, or a fragile ego, a vulnerable ego, we cannot do vipassana properly. So first we need to get the mind settled and strong and balanced. Then we can start looking into the mind itself. And so the Buddha said, first you start with shamatha, get strong shamatha. If you're strong shamatha, vipassana is easy. Without strong shamatha, vipassana is not very deep. But along with that, the Buddha also taught these 4 Brahma Viharas, which is this Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upeksha. Now, we do not need to send loving kindness or compassion to the nature of the mind. Our Buddha nature doesn't need our loving kindness and compassion. What does need loving kindness and compassion is our ego. So the Buddha said, start with yourself. And that's not your Buddha nature. That's just the little me sitting in the middle there. And give yourself love. Maitri, of course, literally means friendliness. I mean, I'm sure many of you know Sanskrit very well. So it has this friendly attitude. Make friends with yourself. Because why? Because we can never be rid of ourselves. We take ourselves with us everywhere. No matter where we travel in this world, I come along with me. Right? And even in our dreams, we are stuck with ourselves. So why not have a nice travel companion? Why not have a friendly self to come along on the path? So first we create a healthy sense of self. We forgive ourselves. We encourage ourselves. We believe in ourselves. Truly, I mean, Shantideva in the Bodhicharvatara says the big difference between arrogance and pride and self-confidence. Self-confidence is essential on the path. We have to believe we can do it. If we don't believe we can do it, then we're already undermining everything. We can't accomplish anything if we don't believe we can accomplish it. So it's very important to have that sense of inner confidence, which comes through sending to ourselves thoughts of friendliness. May I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be at my ease, may I be free from suffering, may I be free from danger, etc., etc., whatever. There are, very traditional methods of doing these practices, and some now quite up-to-date methods for, people on how to do these practices. But they're very important, very, very important, and especially if people are depressed, or have low self-esteem, or are habitually angry and upset. Almost always this is because of this lack of self-cherishing, in the bad sense of the word. I mean, the self-cherishing mind, when we're only being selfish and thinking me, 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 that's not what we're talking about here. Of course, that is a bad thing. But the kind of friendliness towards oneself, and a sense of belief in one's abilities to accomplish, this is very essential. It's a very different thing. It's very important, and the Buddha taught it. It's not some kind of New Age thing. This comes straight from the Pali Canon. So to practice these sending thoughts of well-being to ourselves, and thoughts of compassion to ourselves, rejoicing in the goodness of ourselves, and so forth. Then from there, we give these same feelings to those that we are close to, that we care for, and then those people who are considered to be neutral, people that you meet, but you never give a thought one way or the other whether they're happy or sad. Like, maybe your chauffeur, or your, the person who opens and closes the door, or whoever, somebody who you see, we see them, but we don't think, that they're people, and that they're the center of their universe, and they would like to be happy, and they don't want to suffer. So to select somebody and really wish them well, and really empathize with the fact that you really would like them to be happy and to be free from suffering. And then towards people that we have problems with, who are traditionally called the enemy. Of course, you don't have enemies, but people that we have a hard time with, to again wish them well, free from suffering, and rejoicing in any happiness they may have. And then to all the world, to all sentient beings in all directions. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from suffering. The fourth, which is equanimity, is really, in Tibetan at least, it means impartiality, which means that we don't favor those who are close to us and feel indifference or anger towards people we don't know, or who are a different nation or a different nationality, race or caste or whatever. But that we recognize that all beings wish for happiness and no one wishes for suffering, and we wish that for them. This is very important, to open up our heart. I mean, if one is on a train or a plane or a bus, one can just sit there and, it's not that you have to sit there like this, you just sit there and imagine all the whole carriage or wherever being filled with light, of soaking into all these beings, that they may be happy and all their problems solved, and that they may be well. And one can do that, or anywhere. We can, standing in a line somewhere, you can just radiate loving kindness towards all beings. And in that way, we are bringing our mind and the Dharma onto the path. Because we are not forgetting sentient beings. We are not just involved in our own little petty worries and problems. We are opening our heart to recognize that every single being that we meet wants to be happy and probably isn't, has problems that they'd like to be free from. And so just to recognize that in every single being that we meet, as we meet them. Our, initial response, not what they look like or what you think about what they're wearing or any views that you might have, but the first thought is, may they be well and happy. Because, just as we ourselves would like to be happy, all beings want to be happy. And if we just do that much, that is bringing the Dharma onto the path. So it's about a revolution inside ourselves, right down here. It's not so much about the head. It's about opening up our heart and recognizing how interconnected we are with all beings. Really, all beings are very much the same. Male, female, whatever race, whatever social position, we're all very, very similar under our skin. Skin is really only skin deep. And under that, we are all very, very alike. I mean, even animals are, very alike. Our dog wants to be loved, wants to be acknowledged, wants us all to notice that he's there and that he, yes, we love you. He's more open about it than most people. But it's there. As sentient beings, we all would rather be happy than be miserable. And to recognize that in all beings, that's what it is. So as much as possible, we try to bring them something. Even if it's just a smile, even if it's just a polite word, even if it's just giving way. And if we try to do that during our day, then it does remind us all the time, that other beings, we are here for the sake of all beings, not just for ourselves. And each step on the way is a step. It doesn't happen just like that. Just step by step by step by step. We are bringing our life onto the path and putting the Dharma in the center of our lives. Not just on the periphery when we think about it, but right there, right in the center. All the time, with everyone. Especially with the people that we are very familiar with, our families, our work colleagues, and so forth. To really, really try to transform our heart through transforming our attitude. So that's the second line. Maybe we should have some questions. What is the difference between self-respect and ego? How do you know that what we are standing up for is self-respect or ego? Well, I think I just answered that question in a way. Self-respect is not a bad thing. So we shouldn't, we should have self-respect. And eventually, once we have really gained deep insight into the ultimate nature of the mind, then of itself naturally our identification with the ego will drop away. And in the meantime, it's self-respect is fine, it's self-cherishing mind which is the problem, which means selfishness. When we only think me, and we don't consider other people, that is not a good thing. But in the meantime, to have a certain, we should be friends with ourselves. It's not that we are making an enemy of ourselves. We have to walk the path. Our ego is going to be walking the path. Our ego is going to be walking the path to the end of the ego. Who else is going to walk? So it's very important, to have that sense of, well, for one thing, as an example, if one injures one's hand, then one is very conscious of one's hand. One can't use it effectively, and one is protecting it, and if somebody hits it, ow, because it's an injured hand. And so we're always thinking about it, and we're always protecting it, but it's not very useful. But when our hand heals, then not only are we using our hand all the time, but we're not thinking about our hand. I mean, how many of you are sitting here thinking about your hand? We're not. And yet it's very useful. If somebody hits it, ouch, but so what? So that's like the ego. If we have an injured sense of self, then we are always thinking about ourselves. That's why we have so many psychiatrists and psychologists and psychotherapists and etc. It's because they're dealing with people with injured egos, right? And someone with an injured ego is always thinking about themselves and talking about themselves, which is why you have psychiatrists. And it's all me, poor me, right? Oh, I'm so... When the ego is healthy and healed, don't think much about yourself. Yes, you're there, you take care of yourself, but you're not really, the self is not so important. Other people are much more interesting.
So actually that's my question.
Yeah.
So what I mean by self-respect is like if somebody gives you like a lot of bad words, and then you get hurt, and you don't want to talk to that person for some time. So is that ego or is that self-respect? Like, hello, stay away from me. You can't just keep inciting me.
No, that's just ego. No, you hurt me. The Buddha said, if someone gives you a gift and you don't accept it, to who does the gift belong? So, when somebody says bad words to you, if you say, I don't accept that, it belongs to them. Another time the Buddha said that if somebody throws mud at you, it may or may not hit you, but it dirties their hands. Right? So, it's not your problem, it's their problem.
So that's not self-respect.
So then, laugh. If someone criticizes us and says bad words, the first thing to think is what they are saying true? Maybe they are pointing something out which I haven't noticed, right? So, honestly and truthfully, I don't like that, but is it true? Right? And if it's true, then thank you very much. Because I never noticed that, and now you've pointed it out, and that's very helpful for me. But if it's not true, if it's just their projection, then what's the problem? It's not true. Study Lojong. Study mind training. Look at the 8 verses of mind training, okay? And then we recognize that when people are not nice to us and say bad things towards us, actually they're our best helpers on the path. Okay, how does Buddhism help to come to terms with karma that results in crimes like murder and rape? It's disturbing and very unfair. How do we come to terms with it? Well, I mean, to be absolutely honest and truthful, we're not trying to be kind and fair. If something horrible happens to us, it is usually because we ourselves sowed the seeds for something. I mean, after all, you consider the whole world, all its history, then it's full of murders, rapes, terrible crimes. Somebody committed those, right? Millions and millions and millions of people have done horrible, horrible things to other people. It has to come back. It doesn't mean that therefore you say, well, you deserve it, right? That's not what it's saying. But it is saying that we did create all these karmas at some point. I mean, we've had millions of lives, and we've done everything in those lives. And we don't know when those things are coming up. So it's no good blaming other people, either for what bad things which happen, or even for the good things which happen. These things just happen. What it's saying is it's not happening arbitrarily, and it's not happening because some deity on top decided, well, I think that little girl should be raped. But at some point, like for example, a friend of mine, she was a nun, and then she got breast cancer, and she was quite young, and so she was asking herself why she got breast cancer, because she led a healthy life, and she ate all the right food and everything, so why should she get breast cancer? And she was quite upset about it. And then one time she had this kind of waking vision, in which she was male, and she knew she was a soldier, and she was in a white uniform with a red cross, so it was obviously during the time of the Crusades. And she was standing over the enemy, a man, another soldier lying there, and she had this very big sword, which she had at his chest. And he was begging for his life. And she had a choice. Either she could let him go, or she could kill him. And then she went like this with the sword to kill him. And then she came back into waking consciousness. And she said, I don't know if that was just a fabrication of the mind, or if it was from a past life. But it answered the question, Things happen to us maybe from many, many lifetimes ago. And we've gone on way beyond that now. But things come back. We plant seeds, and seeds ripen. So it's not a matter of blaming somebody if they get raped or murdered, saying, well, it's all their own fault because in a past life they raped and murdered somebody else. So that's not helpful. We don't know what they did or what they didn't do. But if they hadn't done anything, that would not have happened. But we've all done something. That's the point. It's not that you have, obviously you did bad things in your lifetime. That's why you're suffering now. We've all done bad things. I mean, that's why even very great lamas had horrible things happening to them during the Cultural Revolution. It's not that in this lifetime, maybe for many lifetimes, they've been exemplary, but still there are these seeds from, maybe way, way back. How do we know? But the idea is that when things happen to us, that there were causes and conditions. It's not just coming out of nowhere. And, we all have those. So we don't know what's going to happen to us, because all of us have done really bad things in past lives. All of us have done really good things in past lives. And we just don't know when when the causes and conditions will come together for it to come up again. We don't know. So it's no good even thinking about, well, what did I do in my past life that this is happening to me now? Because we don't know. We don't know. We might not even have been humans at the time. Who knows? But the idea is that everything which happens ultimately fits into a pattern which we can't see now. So I'm sorry, but that's the way it is as far as the Buddhist philosophy is concerned. My question is, with regard to suffering, when I see people in Africa and Middle East suffer due to something which is not their fault, I wonder why. But it is their fault, that's the problem. I mean, it's not their fault in this lifetime, it's not their fault maybe last lifetime, but at some point in all our endless being, we have to understand that. People are very happy to take credit when something good is happening, but they don't want to take credit when something bad happens. And one of the reasons why the Tibetans stayed so sane when they came out, after all the horrible things which happened, was because they said, it's our fault. In past, the government did this and we did that and da-da-da-da-da, and therefore this is the retribution for that. And then they said, okay, fair enough. And actually it made them feel better, because they didn't blame anybody. It's just, this is the, as they say, the wheel is shot, weapons returning. Otherwise you blame God. I mean, what kind of kind, loving God is that? Or else you say, well, it just happened and it's nobody's fault and I don't know why this should happen, but it did, which again doesn't make you feel any better. But if we recognize that we've all done so many things in so many lifetimes, and at some point we're going to get results of that, whether good or bad, then, who knows what we did before. And that all of us, as I say, did awful things and all of us did good things. I mean, we've had so many lifetimes. And I mean, in some cultures, things which we consider bad in this culture might be considered right in other cultures. In certain parts, just killing and so forth is considered to be a point of honor. And in the horrible things which the Taliban do, but they consider that's right. But they've got to have the result of that in future lives. Isn't it? I mean, I'm not saying it's a nice thing, but all I'm saying is from a Buddhist perspective, this is the way it is. And we can see, I mean, we're all civilized people, but still horrible things are happening continually. It hasn't stopped horrible things happening. We're still doing horrible things to each other. And, experiencing the result of those awful things. It's the way it is, folks. You spoke of refugees being accepted in the, that was the Tibetan refugees. Today the Rohingyas are being opposed. Well, it's always going on. I mean, where in the world is it ever that everything is perfectly okay, forever? The world has never been like that. There are always wars. There is always oppression. There is always something horrible happening somewhere. The only difference is that now we know more about it because we have the news media. I mean, if you read history, you can see continually people were fighting each other. Even people who didn't need to fight each other just because they have nothing to do. I mean, they're just really, human beings are the end. They're hopeless, and we never learn. The minute solve a problem, just go to war. Blow a few people up, that will solve everything. I mean, how stupid can you get? And we never learn. We never learn. So all that karma is there. I mean, just recently when I was in Myanmar, then again, we were taken out. One of the sites is to visit this cemetery, which is full of thousands and thousands and thousands of little graves of all these young men who died during the war, mostly British and Australians and so forth, but 19, 21, 25, all these thousands and thousands of young men for war. Wasn't even their country. And so you think, oh, well, now we'll learn. No, we haven't learned. We haven't learned a thing. We send out all our best and bravest to be killed. How intelligent. So we leave all the ones who are decrepit and didn't pass the medical test to carry on the next generation. I mean, how intelligent. that level. Leave all our runts behind and send out all the good ones, all the thoroughbreds to be killed. Yeah. Human beings are not too intelligent. But we all have good in nature. Hidden. When you think about the consequences of your actions, how much karma are you generating when you start working from motivation and fear rather than compassion, or both? How do you focus back to your intention and motivation as compassion and not fear mixed with it? Well, you know, we do the best we can. I mean, honestly and truthfully, we are deluded, ego-driven beings filled with negative emotions and often completely screwed up. But there is the aspiration for better. And as long as we aspire, and as long as we seriously try to do the best we can from where we are at this moment, don't get fixated. We are doing the best we can. No, it's not perfect. Yes, it's all curled up with our ego, grasping, deluded mind. But we are sincerely hoping to clarify. We are sincerely hoping to replace our fear by understanding and compassion. We are trying. That's the most important thing. And this again is why loving kindness and compassion starts with ourselves before radiating out to others. Because we have to come to peace within ourselves, to forgive ourselves, to understand ourselves, to encourage ourselves, and not to give up. It's very important, you know. Of course we're not perfect. Nobody, if we were perfect, that would be very lovely. But who is? You know, we're all screwed up to different levels. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter as long as we aspire to something. As long as in our hearts we really wish for wisdom and compassion in our lives. Then slowly, 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 we begin to gain more insight. We begin to understand that a little bit more. Somebody does something which normally would really upset us, and we don't feel upset. That's interesting. Like that. Slowly, slowly. And sometimes somebody does something which we don't like and we do get upset. Okay, so next time I'll try and do better. Right? It's all, as the Buddha said, it's drop by drop the jar is filled. Drop by drop. Not all in one big gush. Just drop by drop, slowly, 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 the jar gets filled. So don't worry, be happy. And really just step after step after step. Don't worry too much. You know, very few people do it all in one big bound. It's just hesitant step after hesitant step. This is why sometimes I also say it's like a small baby learning to walk, and you know, its little legs are all bandy, and it takes one step, 2 steps, then falls down, puts itself up again, walks another couple of steps, falls down, stands up, walks another couple. I mean, the baby never gets to the point of sitting down and saying, okay, I can't do this. Clearly, those others have strong legs, they can walk. Me, I'm never going to get it. Look at my legs, useless. I'm just going to crawl for the rest of my life. Babies are not so stupid. They know if other people can walk, they can walk. And each time their legs get that little bit stronger, that little bit more confidence, till they're running around everywhere. So it's like that. However many times we fall down, we just pull ourselves back up again and keep, next step and fall down, up, next step, fall down, slowly, slowly, slowly. Yeah, really. It's Dhamma says never give up. We've had endless time in samsara to be deluded, so it takes time to undelude. New word. Why not? Okay, we need to